Good morning. Happy Saturday. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this opportunity to connect with you forever. I'm really excited. Y'all, I am one. I do have my cup of coffee because what you will soon learn about me is that coffee is my fuel. You see, it keeps me, what's the word? Functioning. I am absolutely a coffee addict and not in the like cool like oh glamorous. I don't know what's glamorous about it, but in a cool way that people do. Like I remember being like 4 or 5 years old, and my grandmother actually got me addicted, got me hooked because I would be like, Granny, I had a very deep voice, even as a child. Granny, I want coffee. I'm pretty sure I talk better than that. But that was kind of that was it. And she would pour it in a little saucer, and she's like, "You can't have too much because it's gonna stunt your growth." I was like, "I want more coffee," and so that started like that first hit. I was hooked, and so um, yeah. So I am again welcome to Coffee Chats. I am so happy to introduce myself to this community that we're all building together. No lie, I got up at 9:45. Okay, okay. So, uh, and you will often get like this is not any like staged. Um, like, oh my gosh, I've been up so early. I have to make it look like I have no. Like I did put some tinted lip gloss on for y'all because or really for me because my lips was a little crusty and I ain't want to cut myself talking. Okay. It's a little harsh. So start by talking. Start by talking has has become what I am now realizing before I even brought this dreamt this up into fruition is going to be my life's work. Start by talking is an organization, a company, right, that allows, creates, supports conversations and disruptions um, of whiteness. We work really hard to support folks in their journey and interrogating their relationship with anti Blackness and white supremacy. Um, we do the work of executive coaching for one on one leaders. We do coaching outside of the executive realm, right? I coach everyone from my goodness, soccer moms to government employees to um, grandmothers to some of the most brilliant minds in the country. Like to be honest, and um, everyone. I think the common theme that's there, two common themes. One is these are folks who are social justice oriented. Now, how that shows up varies, right? There are folks who, whether they know it or not, they're social justice oriented, and there are folks who have made it formalized and made it their life's journey to be social justice oriented. And so that's the first thing they all have in common. The second thing is that they all just want to be better. And it's not just do better, right? Because we can do the performance, but it's be better. And so I wanted to create this tier, this opportunity, right? Um, to include myself in on this platform of Patreon because I felt like that there were spaces where I often either did not I was able to create opportunities through so many different tiers, but there are opportunities that were missing that would allow people to opt in and opt out, right? Anyone who follows me on Instagram is think it's Lawanda D. Swan. I really should know this. I should be better. I will. Um, but I posted about this. I posted about Patreon. Thank you, and welcome to the space. But I posted about this and specifically just how I ran away from Patreon, from the opportunity to create create a platform here. And but I also realized that there was a huge gap. There's a huge gap that I was missing. Like, not everyone is going to want the full coaching process. Not everyone is going to want the organizational assessment, right? And so what does that mean for folks who are really wanting to learn more, be better, but are not quite plugged in into the spaces of the traditional systems and tiers that I have available? Well, here we are. Here we are. So, what I'm going to talk about a little bit today is who I am, what I do, um, what my hopes are, and what you can expect from this space. And so, uh, I am Mississippi bred and fed, y'all. Mississippi bred and fed, Georgia paid and stayed. And so, I am a lot of things to a lot of people. But one of the things that I really, really appreciate is the opportunity for me to get up and say, whenever someone asks me what I do, I'm able to say I prioritize Black people. And it feels so good. And I'll tell you why. Because um, anti-Blackness is all of our defaults. All of our defaults. And the ways in which whiteness as a construct has created systems that solely depend on a laboring force lets me know that this construct is a strategy that was formed from an incomplete thought, which means that the ways in which we are currently living and dying, because a lot of us are, this structure is an option, and there is a better way. And the way to do that is through truth and transparency and history, right? And understanding that there is an expertise in oppression that is not centered in whiteness. There is an expertise in violence and genocide and disenfranchisement, right? That we need to tap into. And so I will start this by saying that I am a Black girl from Mississippi who, by the age of 7, knew that she was Black because she had been told. And I knew that because I was taught how to navigate whiteness by 7. It was by the age of 7 that I realized, or that I was taught, that there is a line, there is an existence, there is a limitation to your humanity. And that truth is dangerous. And so it's important to understand, even at 7, that if you are in any way upsetting the default system of whiteness, you will not be safe. And there are no people who will come to help you because they won't be able to. What I learned from the age of 7 is that whiteness possesses a power that usurps the responsibilities. that my parents have for keeping me safe. It usurps the responsibilities that my community has for keeping me safe. And it is a it is important. It was important for me to understand that very, very early on. And so, in a lot of ways, I knew I was Black before I knew that I was going to be a woman someday. And I was no way prepared for that, just in a way, same way I wasn't prepared um, for the burden of um, this perceived responsibility, right? This responsibility of Blackness. So I grew up in a very large family. My mother is one of, I think, between 16 and 18 children. Okay. And so I have a lot of first cousins. I have a lot of cousins. I have like maybe 70 cousins now, if not more, actually. And, I grew up with I grew up being raised by a lot of strong Black women who sit at varying levels of this idea of class and hierarchy in that way, social status. But for the most part, um, we were a Black farming family in a Black segregated town that, for the most part, is still segregated today. And I only saw, I think I was in college the first time I sat in a classroom with another white student. And it freaked me out. I was so confused. Um, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the ways in which, like, in a lot of ways, like, white folks definitely existed, but they existed, they, their existence was connected to capitalism. Their existence was connected to capitalism. So these were the people who we paid our bill money to. These were the loan sharks in our neighborhoods. Um, these were the law enforcement officers at one point in time. These were the people who owned the land that some of my family members worked on. My father was a sharecropper. My father was a sharecropper. And so it was a very interesting space to sit in because I had this understanding of from a distance, right? And with that understanding comes some assumptions that I had on my own. And then I had the opportunity to sit in spaces with white folks as an adult. I did not sit in a classroom setting with a white person until I was an adult. I went my whole educational endeavors, man. Head start, kindergarten, elementary, junior high, high school. I've never had it's always been all Black experience, all Black, very Southern rural experience. And it was also an experience that was steeped in what I now know as liberation doctrine, right? So a lot of my elementary school teachers were freedom fighters, right? Former freedom fighters. And so we would have our reading, writing, arithmetic, but we will also have conversations around, like, no, my math teacher taught me how to balance a checkbook, right? We would have state representatives come in and speak to us, Black representatives come in and speak to us, right, about the importance of understanding, like, civic duty, right, things of that nature. And so it was a very privileged experience in that way, to be able to be taught. We were not only taught how to excel academically, but we were also taught how to push our communities forward as children. It was a beautiful, beautiful shout out to Goodman Pickens Elementary, right? Um, and so I grew up and I I was always a watcher and observer of people. It was really interesting because on one hand, I was quite the tomboy. I was quite loud. I was very protective of people. But in other ways, I was also very observant. And so I grew up with a family where, strict gender roles, right? Like everybody go to church, um, can't cut your hair. When there are holidays, men and children eat first, and the men go hunting, and the women are left to clean up after everyone, like those types of um, traditions, right? And it was also a space where religious doctrine was also heavily influenced and utilized, right? And so there's no such thing as questioning um, anything, because God don't make no mistakes. And so for many folks who, if you know me now, if you've interacted with my page, you could probably tell that I was an interesting character, because who I am now is basically who I've always been. I was just shorter. Like, that's the only difference. This mouth has always been a problem to the system, and even the systems that were internalized by non-dominant groups. Whew, always been a problem. So my family loves me. They have always they love me. There are times where they tolerated me. There are times where we just could not, as we say in the country, we just couldn't set horses. Okay, we couldn't get along. Um, but I always stood firm in my beliefs, and I always knew. I remember that I had to be no more than 6, and I remember an uncle threatened to whoop me, right? And I looked at him and I said, I was over to my grandmother's house, and I said, "You don't talk to me that way. No, you don't, like, I'm a whole person. I'm a person, and you don't talk to me that way. And you're not going to hurt me. I'm actually going to go home." And I got up and I left. And they were so stunned because, look, I'm a black girl from Mississippi, from a Mississippi black ass Baptist family. We don't do that. Okay. You take your whooping and you go on about your business. But that wasn't, it, again, that's just an option. And that's an option that I'm not interested in. And so the first time that it happened, people were stunned. And then the second time it happened, they were like, "Oh, wait, what?" Right? And then it became, "Oh, she crazy because she'll just say anything." No, I'm a person. I knew very early on that my personhood was very important, needed protecting, and it was non-negotiable. My humanity was non-negotiable, right? And so it got me into a lot of fights and skirmishes, but I'm here today. I am yet alive, as my grandmother used to say. When they say, "Bertha, how you doing?" I am yet alive. I am yet alive. Thank you, God. So that's a little bit about who I am. I am the baby girl also of um, 4 out of 4. So it's 4 of us. And my mother is the first black feminist I ever met. And she will never admit to it, and it's fine. I came to this work that you know me today through anti-violence work. My mother was also the first anti-violence professional that I had ever encountered, and she opened up her home all over, within our neighborhood, and it was a space for battered women to come in. It was a space for battered family members. It was a space for anyone who was seeking solace and peace. We didn't have much, but my mother was um, determined to help women see freedom. Black women see freedom as an option. Herself being a survivor of violence, it was something that was quite important to her, and it was just our way of working, so, and our way of living. So that's a little bit about me. And as we go through our time and have our time together, you will learn more about me. You'll learn more about my family, and we'll probably even have my sister come in and talk a little bit. But I also want to take this time to tell you a little bit about Start by Talking. Um, so when I started Start by Talking, this was a business that started right before the pandemic, like a whisper before the pandemic. Um, and it was something that I had been doing unofficially, right, in a very like consulting on and off manner, when I had the opportunity with my previous 9 to 5 job, right? So, um, but it was an opportunity for me to offer my services of helping people understand how whiteness operates and the ways in which that it finds its way into our systems, into our relationships, into our policies, into our climate, right? Um, and so it wasn't it was what I was good at, one of the things I was really good at. And it actually served as a way for me to fund, to take a percentage of earnings and fund my nonprofit's hardship fund. So I have a nonprofit, the Swan Center for Advocacy and Research, where I support Black survivors of violence through crisis intervention work as well as a hardship fund. And so, um, I'm able to take a portion from that to donate to the cause and support survivors of violence in crisis. And so it was just an opportunity to do that. And from March, March of last year to now, I hardly recognize it. This has been, um, beyond my wildest dreams, the response of having a business, having a business this controversial, in the middle of a pandemic, um, was a gamble. It was a gamble, and you know, you really had to bet on yourself. And I'm so glad that I did. I not only bet on myself, I bet on humanity, and I'm so glad I did. We've had the opportunity to support so many folks individually, so many organizations, so many people. We have this wave of interest of people who are just wanting to learn, people who are seeing the gaps, and people who are wanting to have those gaps filled with truth. And I'm just honored that y'all, like folks like y'all, are rocking with me and rocking with Start by Talking. So, what I hope is to continue to create this momentum, to be able to continue to create opportunities and connection and understanding across so many areas and entities. And specifically for Patreon, and for my patrons, I want to create an intimate community of folks who are, I had to put my coffee down, y'all. Ooh, my hands are warm. An intimate learning and development community of folks who are ready to have these conversations, who are vulnerable, who are wanting to move from this place of reimagining and hand wringing to action, right? And I'm wanting to create resources that will help you to do that along the way. I just want to be of service to this cause. And so this will come in the form of live chats like this, opportunities to connect via live, um, learning resources that you can download and use, monthly chats. I think that you all, there should be at least right now 2 or 3 mapping whiteness. I have to sneeze. Bless me. I was like, what are you doing? Sneezes are always like, why? Um, yeah, so resources for self-guided learning, which is the Mapping Whiteness weekly resource of um, things that you can research on your own time, just to be able to give you a better sense of what I mean when I say whiteness, right? What I mean when I talk about anti-blackness, what I mean when I talk about internalization, the impact of whiteness, and its origins, right? And how anti-blackness is a vehicle that validates the harm that white supremacy causes. We're going to get into all of that. Ooh, child, we're going to get into all of that, okay? But I I want us to solely start by talking. And I want us to I want you to also expect just opportunity for touch points. There are going to be for you all who have already contributed, right? This also means like being able to see some behind the scenes of like, how do we do this work? How did this how did this business bloom in a pandemic? How does this business continue to function? Right? Um, what are some things that happen on the day to day? What is it like being an anti oppression coach? I'm actually writing a book of essays about that right now. Um, like, what are some of the things that whiteness tells people, and how does that come out in my coaching? Right? Or the question that I get often, by at least, first of all, by followers, friends, and by my mama at least 3 times a day. How are you having these conversations with white people all day? These are some things that we can talk through. These are some things that I want to bring forth to you all. And so I'm going to wrap up, and in the final moments that we have left, I'm going to ask you to communicate, right? Know that you are here. And we are so happy, the SBT family, we're so happy to have you here. We are so happy that you are a part of this community. And we want you to know that on this road to revolution, you are not alone. You have company. We are entertaining, and we are walking with you side by side. So I am going to continue to enjoy this Saturday morning. I don't know what the weather is like where you all are, but it's one of those weird mornings where it rained overnight, and it was when it started raining, it was so late, and then when it stopped, it was so early. And so it's like who pulled out this water in the street and then left it here and ran away, right? Because that's the only evidence that we have. And so I'm probably gonna get ready to walk the dogs now. They are quite ready. And I hope that y'all are having a wonderful Saturday. And thank you for rocking with me today and allowing me to have Saturdays with you. So have a great day. See you next week.